Okay, so welcome everyone to our human design intro class with Christine Terrell. I'm Melinda Zarate with Emboldened Heart, and we're just really pleased to have you with us. And so I'm not going to be doing a lot of the talking because this is not my area of expertise, it's Christine's. And she's going to just kind of give us a bit of a high level understanding of what human design is and what the different types are. And then we'll just see how this organically unfolds. So, welcome, Christine. So happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate being invited. This is really exciting. You all get to witness my first group session. So I
Yay.
really appreciate you all being here. And I don't actually agree with the term expert because I am for sure not, but I am trying to practice this thing that my own teacher was teaching me, or teaching many of us, which was to take imperfect action, which really resonated for me, which is I have a tendency to feel like I have to know everything before I can jump in and do something. And that has a real shadowy side. So I'm trying to take my own or her advice and my own advice and recognize that I know enough. And so I will have lots of information for you, most of which will be hopefully interesting and useful. There may be questions that you have that I can absolutely not answer. So I will just tell you that up front because I do not, it's a big system and I don't know it all. Um, but I think I know the stuff that's important for you to know. And that's kind of why I'm really interested in this system because um, I think it has information for all of us that could be really helpful. I think it's a really useful lens for how to look at our own energetics and how we show up in the world and how we impact our others in the world with our energy. Um, and so I'll just do a brief. I'm just going to assume that everybody doesn't know much about human design. So if you do, I apologize, but I'm just going to give you the very basic overview of what it is. So it's a really fairly recent system. It was channeled in the late 80s um, by a man living in Ibiza at the time. And there's all kinds of stuff around him. I'm not super interested in him, but I am interested in the information he's downloaded. So that's kind of where I put my focus. Um, the system came in when it did, in part because what it teaches is that we are in between paradigms. We're ending one paradigm, this kind of um, institutions, hierarchy, structure. We've gone through like about 400 years of a lot of building things, coming together in ways to make progress on the planet, and a lot of it has been really positive. But we're at the end of that 400-year cycle, and the next cycle that's yet to be born is coming up pretty soon. Within the next 5 years is kind of the beginning of that actual astrological shift in time. And so human design it said that it came in order to help us make that transition, essentially, to help teach us a bit more about our own individual nature and to be more aligned with our individual nature. Because this past paradigm had a lot more about conforming and fitting in and working together to build things, which was necessary and good, but it isn't what's coming next for us. That we all need to be, what it's teaching is that we all need to be sovereign individuals, that we all have to be our own selves and walk our own true path and be here and do our own soul work in order to move the collective to forward, essentially. And so a lot of what I like about human design is it's a way for us to see, literally as a picture, to kind of see how our energies work, and to get a better, clearer idea of what's truly aligned for us, because there's so much outside conditioning. And we all know this, right? Our parents, the world. I mean, especially as women, it looks like they're all women here. There's lots of conditioning around that as well. And so human design is here to say, hey, that stuff, you got to shed all that stuff, because at the core of you, you have a purpose and you're here to live on purpose. And that I think is really powerful. And so
I love
my thing
that.
is just, yeah, yeah, me too. So
Love
I'm
that.
just trying to kind of do what I can to like just put the knowledge in the world, like, hey, this thing exists, right? And I hold a lot of things lightly. In the system, there's a profile, there's kind of an archetypal profile system, and I'm what they call a 5-1, which is a heretic investigator, are the archetypes for that. And so I'm always pretty skeptical about things, and I hold lots of things lightly because I'm always like, could be true, who knows, you know? And so but I do feel like there's a lot of truth. A lot of things resonate here for me, and I hope, when I go through it with y'all, you'll find some resonance in it as well. Um, so that's kind of the background. And then I don't really know, Melinda, you might have a good some. Do you think it's better to just kind of jump in with this example, this sort of living example, or to do a little bit more kind of like these are the bits and pieces of human design and how the things go together?
I think it might be
Do you have a
helpful
sense of that?
to just maybe go into the five different main human design types, which I believe there are five,
Okay. Yeah.
and just maybe
Yeah.
give just a snippet about each of them. And
Yes.
I,
That's
I'm not sure if everyone has had an opportunity to get their human design chart. I had included a link in the invite that went out, but I know, life gets in the way. We don't always get things
yeah.
accomplished we intend to. So if
Yeah.
you have not yet done that, um, I would certainly encourage you to do that. Even after the fact is fine. You'll get some really good information here. And then when you look at your human design chart, you'll be able to kind of go, oh, that's what she was talking about. I get it. And we'll also certainly be sharing Christine's details. So you'll know how to reach out to her if what she says resonates with you and you'd like to learn more. But if you have your chart in front of you, that might be fun for you to just take a look at it as she goes through this next general
Yeah.
piece. So carry on,
Yeah. Yeah.
Christine.
Yeah. So that makes, yeah. So that's great. So yeah, I'll keep going. So the system actually incorporates four different ancient wisdom systems. It's based very much on astrology, which is why I was asking for, and that's how you get your own chart. You need to know your date of birth, your time of birth, and the place. And people always say, "Well, I don't know my date, my birth time," and that can be tricky. It's much like astrology. It does change significantly. Like if you don't know, even if you were born in the evening or in the morning, you could have a significantly different chart. So and there's kind of ways around it, but anyway, I would say if you can get your birth time, that makes a huge difference. So astrology is a large portion of this wisdom system. It maps a bunch of astrology also to the I Ching, which is an ancient Chinese, probably one of the most ancient esoteric systems humans that we know of anyway. There may have been ones before, but it's one that's lasted for a long time. So the I Ching is a divination program system, and it's based on 64 hexagrams. And human design incorporates those 64 hexagrams that also map to the 64 codons of our genetic makeup. So there's like this interesting overlap between these esoteric systems, what we now know about, scientifically about our own biology. Um, the system also brings in the Brahmin chakra system. You'll see that when I show you the body graph. If you haven't seen a body graph, it's got a lot of similarities to the chakra system. And it also has a little bit of the Jewish Kabbalah system, which is the tree of life wisdom system there, which I don't know exactly, quite frankly, how it fits in, but apparently it is using some of that wisdom as well. And so this system brings all of those together and kind of shows how or brings them together in ways that they overlap in interesting ways. And so the astrology, like I said, is a huge piece. And when we get into this particular person's design, then I will kind of walk you through a little bit of what that is. So if you have astrological knowledge, if you have astrology knowledge, human design is like a whole, I don't know, maybe Pandora's box for you, because there's a lot of stuff that you could find of interest there. I myself do not have a lot of astrological knowledge, so I am still lacking there. But it's, you don't need to know it in order to understand a bit about human design. And so those systems come together, and there's about 5 things at the highest level in human design that we pay attention to, that you need to know about. The first is your type, and Melinda's right. It vacillates. I think of it as 4 types, with one type having a subcategory. So there are generators. That's a type. Generators they make up about 70% of the planet. So it's very likely that you are or know someone who is a generator. And their energetic aura is very open and welcoming, because they are here to respond. That is their strategy in the world. And so the world brings things to them in order for them to decide, using their internal wisdom, their inner knowing, their authority, what is right for them and what is not. So the universe is constantly bringing things to generators in order to respond to. And they're busy. They have a consistent sacral energy, like a life force energy, that they have lots of energy to do things, which is why we have this world that we have with all of these things we've built, because most of the people are here building things because we're mostly generators. There's a subcategory of generators called manifesting generators. They have a bit more access to their throat chakra. They have the ability to express a bit more, and the ability to initiate things a little bit more. Generators are mostly not initiators. It's not usually aligned for them, but manifesting generators have a bit of a hybrid capabilities that way. The next group of folks are projectors. They are fairly new to the planet, apparently. There's about 20% of people who are projectors. Their energetic aura is very penetrating and focused. So if you are a projector, or if you're around a projector, that you may feel that. When you're with a projector, they see you. And they are focused on you, and there can be an intensity there that you may not feel with other folks. Projectors are here to recognize people and to be recognized. And it's very important for them to be recognized in the world, and to be invited in is their strategy. They do best when people see them and invite in their energy to guide, because they're here to guide others. That's their role on the planet. Third type is a manifester, which is a straight up manifester, not manifesting generator. It's a little confusing. There's only about 10% of the population that are manifestors. They have an aura that's they use the term repelling, which I don't like. I like to think of it like two of the same ends, like north ends of a magnet coming together, and you have that bit of a force field. Manifestors have a bit of a force field around them. Their aura is a bit more discerning, and it's also quite protective. So especially for manifestor children, as a child, like, manifestors know what they want in the world. They are here to initiate things, and they are here to do the things they want to do. That's their energy. But for children, I mean, they come out this way. So, but when you've got a 4-year-old that's like, I'm going to walk to the park on my own, parents don't like that so much. But what's taught in the system is, yeah, that kid could probably walk to the park on his own and be totally fine, because he's got that aura that people aren't going to bother him. He's just going to go to the park, swing for a while, and come home, and he's going to be great. So there's lots of stories about how raising manifestor kids can be a real challenge, apparently. And then the final type is a reflector. And I kind of think of those as a sort of like a high level projector. There's only 1% of the population that are reflectors. And they are here to guide all of us. They're here to reflect back to us what it is we need to know as a collective, and how we need to grow and move and change as a community, essentially. So I raced through that super fast. So should I be taking questions?
I'm,
or slowing down?
I think it's really good.
Okay.
I think, yeah, just carry on. I'm
Okay.
gonna
Okay.
look at
Cool.
someone else who's joining us.
Cool. Yeah. So those 4 or 5 types, however you like to look at it, they, like I said, I alluded to, they each one has a particular strategy and a particular authority. And so this is in human design, what we're teaching is we all need to decondition. We've all been conditioned by the world. And in order to decondition ourselves, what we need to do is get out of our minds, because we're always thinking about how we should make decisions and thinking about things logically and linearly and strategically, and get out of our minds and get into our inner authority, our bodily wisdom, because that's what's aligned for us to make decisions in the world. And so generators, like I said, are here they have sacral energy. They have a very strong yes, no, to the point where they may even lean in and lean out. When things come to them, they're like, oh yeah, I totally want to do that. Or like, I don't want to do that. It's really strong, and we should pay attention to that. Because if we don't, then we get into our head about, well, I really don't want to do that, but I know I should because that's my mom and I should do the stuff for her. Like, that's where all things go bad for us. So when we don't listen
Yeah.
to our inner authorities. So for generators, it's real simple, because it's that whole mantra of trust your gut. 100% true for generators. But if you're a non-sacral being, if you don't have sacral definition and you're a projector or a manifester or a reflector, you have different ways of finding your truth. And that can be through your spleen, which has a bit of an intuitive sort of kind of like excited to do things, or maybe nervous not to do something, or it's a little bit more subtle. So it's not quite the yes, no that a sacral person would get. You can have self-projected authority as a projector, which means you literally need to speak in order to know what it is that you think, because until you go through that process, you don't actually know what's best for you. So there's lots of different authorities within those non-sacral beings, and we can talk about each one of those if it comes up. I won't list them all, but it's the most common one is emotional. So I will talk about that. Lots of people on the planet have emotional authority, that means you have a solar plexus defined. And when you have emotional authority, it means you have an emotional wave. So when a decision comes to you to be made, what's aligned for you is to wait a certain amount of time, hopefully at least overnight, and kind of feel out the highs and the lows of your emotions around that decision. And over the course of some time, you'll have some clarity over, like, yeah, I really wanted to do that at first, but then this morning I'm not feeling it so much. But then in the afternoon, you're kind of maybe back and like, you know what? That's a really good, I really want to do that. And at that point, that's where somebody with an emotional authority is like, I really feel, not think, I really feel that this is a good thing for me to do. So it's mostly just practicing getting back into our bodies. And we all have a particular nuance on how it's best for us to do that. But getting out of our minds is really important in this system. So we have a type, we have a strategy, we have authority, and then the last thing I'll cover is, I alluded to earlier, we have this profile, these archetypes, and there's 6 different archetypes, 6 different lines. The one line, if you have a 1 line in your profile, you're an investigator, which means exactly like it sounds. You really like to get deep into information, and you like to research things, you like to know things. Part of the thing about being an investigator is knowledge makes you feel safe in the world. And so all of that is excellent. The shadowy side for that is, like I just said earlier, sometimes you don't act. Sometimes you spend too much time researching and not doing the things that you should be doing. So that's the 1 line. 2 line is a hermit. So if you have a 2 in your profile, you have a real strong inclination to be alone some. Is this rain too loud for you guys? Can you hear it?
I don't hear it at
It's
all.
raining here.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, good.
not,
Because it seems really loud all of a sudden.
yeah, no, it's not a problem.
Okay, okay, good, good. So hermits they have two things. They have that natural, they really kind of like being alone, but they also have natural talents that people call out in them. So people will call out these hermit folks to share with them the things that they're off hermiting about. Like you might be in there really diving deep into some thing that you just love and you love being alone, having time to do that. But eventually people will be like, yeah, what's that thing you're doing? Because that's super interesting. And that's aligned. Like when people call you out, it's if you have a two, for sure go out and tell them what it is you're doing, even though you'd rather be home alone. So, um, three, people with line three, that's they call it the martyr in human design. Don't really love that term. It doesn't mean much to me. I think of it as the experiential person, the experiential learner. So they're the person that is always out there trying something. If you, as a kid, people would be like, oh, don't do it that way. It's not going to work. And you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to go do it that way because I got to know for myself. So people with three lines often fail a lot because they're out there trying all kinds of new things, but that's 100% aligned for them because they are here to learn and show others what they know based on the experiences they've had. Um, and they're super resilient. Like failure for them doesn't hit failure like it might for other people. Failure is like, yeah, whatever. I'm either winning or learning, right? And they keep right on going. So it's a cool energy. I like the three lines. If you have a four in your profile, they call it an opportunist. Again, doesn't really mean much to me. I think of it as a people person. You are all about your network. You're all about the people in your life. You want to make sure that they're doing well, that they're connected, that they've got what they need. You will get opportunities through your network. Like you are all about people. Five lines, I'm a fifth line. It's a somewhat of a leadership kind of line. It has a bit of a savior thing. There's what they call a projection field around the fifth line. People project on you things that they want to see, like they think that you can save the day, that you can solve the problems. And sometimes fives can because they're heretics. That's the name for the heretics for the fifth line. And we don't abide convention very well. So people do look to us for solutions because we're like, whatever, that's how it used to be done. But really, I think we should do it this really wacky way. It seems way better. So there's a lot of that in the fifth line energy. And then six lines are the role models. They're the folks that have lots of wisdom to share. They're here to show others the way. And they have a very distinct life path. From 0 to 30 years old, they're very much like a three line. They're very experimental. They are out there messing up, making mistakes, trying everything out. They use the term lots of bonds made and broken, like you're with lots of people in various ways and then you're not. That's a very typical thing for six line. And then from 30 to 50, there's a second phase of their life where they pull back from all of that. They kind of look at all that experience they are having, they think about it, they process it, they're integrating it in order for that last phase of their life to be that role model. They can step into that, like, look, I've done this thing, I've thought about it a ton, I know what that means. Let me show you what I've learned from all of that stuff. And so that's how the six line energy works. Cool. That's a huge bunch of stuff.
It is, Christine, but I gotta say, the way you've described it, it's succinct, but it's really easy to understand.
Okay,
And
good.
yeah, I think that was just super helpful because it's sort of like you gave us a really easy organizational chart for this thing that seems massive and unintelligible a lot of the
Yes,
time.
it does.
So yeah, kudos. That was very
Thanks.
helpful. Yeah,
Good. Cool.
absolutely.
Um, should we jump into some to
Yeah, maybe it would be at this point, it might be fun to just actually let you do some looking at Marianne's chart
yeah,
and see what questions come up for
yeah.
Marianne. And then those of you who are listening in, don't hesitate to ask your questions because we want to be sure at least we get the questions so that we can try to answer them for you
Right.
and cover as much information as we can in this class today. And again, this is an intro class. It's really just to kind of let you dip your toe in the water and see if you like how it feels. And if it's interesting and you're curious and want to learn more, then the door is going to be open to Christine, and we'll encourage you to keep on learning. So,
That's awesome. Can I share my screen? Do I need permission for
oh
you?
yeah, let me get that going.
Okay, cool.
Um, and they've changed they
Of
regularly update Zoom, so bear with
course.
me while I try to figure this thing out.
Awesome.
Um, and if anyone is listening in that is a Zoom master, please
I
chime
think you need
in.
to, I think if you go to the three dots on my screen, on my that three dots should say like make me co-host. I think making me co-host should work.
Okay, I don't see the three dots on your
Oh,
screen.
if you mouse over my screen, the three dots don't show up.
Oh, yes, brilliant, very good. Actually, it says I can make you a host, which is
Uh, okay. That's
that's
fine.
okay with me. Let's do that. Yeah, here we go. You're now the host.
Okay. Cool. I've got the power.
Yeah,
All right. Awesome. Okay. Can everyone see this screen?
Yes.
it's
Yes.
showing up okay for me.
Is it big enough? Can you
It could
actually see?
maybe be a bit bigger.
Okay, let me just see if I can. Oops. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. All right. So you'll see, I talked about many of these things over here, so you'll see some of those things I talked about. Let's just dive in. Marion, do you have any history with human design at all, or are you totally new to the system?
I just clicked on the link and saw what I was. No, I don't really know anything about it.
Okay, cool. All right, then I guess I will proceed that way anyway. I was just curious. Um, so yeah, so what we're looking at here is called the body graph, and each of these shapes is an energy system, or an energy center, sorry. So, and if they are colored in, they're what we call defined, and that means you have this consistent energy in that place. And if they're open, they're uncolored and white, that means they're undefined. Um, and all that means is not that you don't have the energy, but that it's just inconsistent. It shows up for you differently in different days and different times. Um, and so I think I'm just going to walk through these centers with you one at a time, Marianne, and I'll just kind of tell you what that energy means and how it may show up for you. And this would be also for anybody else that has their chart in front of them, it would be very similar. Now, I will say this again is very high level. So just because you have a defined root and that means you have a fairly consistent way of handling stress, there would probably be a very different nuance because Marianne, you have this 39 gate activated. If somebody else had a 54 gate activated, that would maybe be very different. So, and again, I'm not going to get into that level of detail. I'm just saying to folks that are listening, like if I say, "Oh, this means this for you," it may not mean that for you because you may have other things in your design that just don't work that way or negate that thing in some way. So that is a possibility. So yeah, so let's start here. So this is your root center. This is what in human design we call a pressure center. So what it means is it's the center that pressurizes energy throughout our body. So the goal is to get energy to our throat. The head center is a pressure center pressurizing down to the throat, and the root is the pressure center pressurizing up to the throat, because the goal of all of our energy is to be expressed in some form or fashion, either through talking or singing or art or whatever. Those all are kind of throat center energies. And so here in your root, you're defined, meaning, like I said, that this is a consistent energy for you. So you may find that you handle stress in a fairly similar way all the time. You may find other people that seem like they're all over the place, and you're like, oh, I always do it this way. What's your problem? Because you're consistent here. And it also maps a bit to the adrenals. So not a bit, but it does map to the adrenals. So this is the place for folks that are open here. This is a profile or a chart that's probably more likely to be in a situation where they get adrenal fatigue, or where they work really hard and then they don't stop at the end of the day. Like, they never feel like they've worked hard enough. They never feel like they can just stop. And so people that are defined here have a little bit more ability to be like, okay, I worked my 8 hours. I'm good. I'm going to go home and rest and do things that excite me. Folks that are open here would be much more like, I did that 8-hour day, but I've got 5 more things on my list. I got to get all those things done. I'm going to do them. And then before you know it, you're in some form of functional burnout or adrenal fatigue. So just be aware that if you're open here, especially, it's a really good practice to be like, I've done enough. I can stop. That thing I'm feeling is just my open root saying that I need to do more, but it's not true. So paying attention to that feeling that you're never done. Your root here is connected directly through a channel to your solar plexus. This is our solar plexus, and this is where our emotions live. And this is why you are an emotional manifesting generator, because you have this solar plexus defined. And not only do you have it defined, you have a lot of activity you have a lot of these gates activated in your solar plexus. And so for you have consistent emotional energy. You may feel your emotions quite intensely, actually, given all of the gates that you have activated there. And you may also find that when you're in the energetic aura of other people who are open or undefined here, that they may not understand your emotions, because they are receiving your emotions. They can feel your emotions through their openness, and their openness amplifies your emotions. So you may find yourself in situations sometimes where people are like, you are so emotional. What is your deal? Because very likely they are not defined here. They're open, and they don't feel their own emotions as intensely as you do, and they're feeling your emotions like at 2x. So through that amplification process. So this is something to be aware of, both if you're open in your solar plexus and if you're defined, that we're constantly exchanging energy with others, and that where we're open in our designs are places that we can receive other people's energy and can also amplify it. So that is just something to pay attention to. And you have 2 emotional waves. These are particular kinds of ways that emotions show up. And for you, this particular wave here is what they call a tribal wave. It can be sort of a ratchet wave, is what they call it. So it's one of those things where you may be like, oh, that's annoying. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, that's annoying. And then you're like, all of a sudden you're like, why are you doing that thing? And the people are like, what? What? Like, why? What are you, like, I didn't even know. And you're like, ah. And then after you've like exploded, you'll be like, whatever, I'm good. I did my explosion. I don't know, I'm good. And then they're left like, what the hell just happened? So this ratchet wave can behave like that. It doesn't always behave like that, but that's the teaching around it, is like, yeah, it can happen. You ratchet up, and then you kind of explode, and then you go back to, baseline of calm and collected. And it's connected over here to your sacral, which is this life force energy. And so that's part of the reason that energy exists. You've got this emotional thing going on, and you've got this energy to do. And so that connection can sometimes use that life force energy in a really emotional way, in a highly intense emotional way. So with your sacral defined, you have good, constant, consistent energy. You probably are somebody that can work all day consistently and lay down at night and go to sleep and wake up the next day ready to go. That's essentially how generators are supposed to work. If you're not sleeping well, it could mean that you're not getting enough physical activity, or you're not expending enough of your sacral energy during the day to really be ready to go to bed and to have expended all of your energy through the day. So that's something that generators need to pay attention to. Do you have any questions about any of this so far, Maren?
No, this is great. Yeah, the only thing is I can't work all day. I have chronic fatigue syndrome.
Well, yeah, no, that's interesting. I was going to say that doesn't, I say that to people, but it doesn't always mean it's true, because again, we're conditioned, right? The amount of work that we're actually asking each other to do is crazy. No human, not even generators, really should be doing as much work as we do on a daily basis. So, I say that like everybody should be working 8 hours a day, like that's a normal thing for humans, but it isn't really. That's just the world we've created over the last couple hundred years.
But
So,
a lot of what you're
and
saying
often people
makes
are doing
sense.
work that,
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of what you're saying makes sense,
yeah.
except for
Well, and also the working thing. Well, so the other piece of that often is people aren't doing what's lighting them up. So if you're doing work that isn't work that you love, this is part of the teaching of human design too, right? Like we have energy for the things that are aligned for us and light us up. But if they don't, then our energy isn't being well spent and we will feel tired because again, we aren't doing what's lighting us up. So there may be some elements of that as well. Certainly we live in a world that asks us to do a lot of work that isn't meaningful. So it's very likely that all of us have at least a piece of that we're trying to manage. But there are some other things here too that I could see that might be contributing to that. Um, I'll slide over here. This is your spleen. This is kind of the oldest center in our design. This is where our fears and our survival instinct live. It's also where our intuition lives. And so with your openness here, you will be inconsistent a bit in your intuition. You may feel sometimes really, tapped into your own inner knowledge. You might be tapped into other people's with, intuition sometimes even, but it will come and go. It won't be always. Some folks that are open here actually have a really keen sense of other people's wellness and other people's health. May not be so clear on their own health and wellness, but they do seem to have the ability to pick up that in other people. Again, we're open to other people's energies where we're open. So that could possibly be the case for you. I'll skip over to here. This is our G center, literally the letter G. And this is one of those places that I think that human design is it has moved away from the traditional chakra system, and it's kind of split the heart chakra into two. There is the heart chakra or the heart energy system here, but this G center is more of like the seat of our soul. So what's taught in human design is that on the day of our birth, the moment of our birth, these are the heavens. So if you're, and know much about astrology, these are all the various planetary glyphs. And so this is the sun, this is Earth and the North Node all the way down. And so at the moment of your birth, this is your personality side, of your design. But in human design, what's taught is that 88 days before you're born is the moment that your soul enters your body. And when your soul enters your body 88 days before you're born, it actually lives in your G center. So this is literally the seat of your soul in human design. And so these sets of numbers are the moment of time, the heavens at the moment of time that your soul entered your body. And it's these two sets of astrological numbers that end up making all of the various connections here in our body graph. And so here in your soul, in this seat of your soul, is your identity and your kind of not so much your purpose, but your direction and your identity, essentially. And so you're open here, totally open. You don't have any gates activated at all. And what that means is that you're very free flowing in your identity, that you maybe have been one of those people as a kid that you were like, ooh, I'm going to be I'm going I'm gonna go travel with the Grateful Dead, this, and then 2 weeks later you're like, oh, I'm gonna get a secretarial job. And I mean, you may have just been all like, I don't know what I am. And again, the outside world teaches, well, that's not okay. You're supposed to be the same person all the time, and you're supposed to know who you are. But for you, that's not true. You're here to flow in and out of identity and to be able to see and allow that in others as well. That is part of your makeup, and it's aligned for you. So giving up any stuff around, oh, I'm supposed to be the same person all the time would be really excellent work for you to be like, good, I can let all that go. So you get to be whoever you want to be, whatever day you want to be that person. And this energy is connected, to this heart thing, which is also part of like who we are, a bit of our worthiness. It's also called the ego or the will center. And I think I look at that willful energy a lot in this heart center. I think that that's really a strong aspect of this. And so you're open here, you're inconsistent. It probably means that if there ever is a clash of wills between somebody, like you're just going to make something happen, like that, unless they're also open. But if they're defined here, it's very likely that you'll never win that battle. It does not probably feel right for you to push and force your will on others. You just don't have the energy for it. But again, you do have the energy for being really in tune with your own. You may vacillate in your own like worthiness, like you may not have that 100% like I feel amazing every single day, but you have the ability to hold a lot of space for others in that, and to be really empathetic around that. Any questions about any of that?
No, that fits really well. I'm an empath. I used to be a counselor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Open
Yeah, I could
space.
see that. There's a lot of that in your design. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's my gift is empathy.
Yeah. Yeah, your design would confirm that. And also, like I like to tell people, like when you're saying that, that means that you are living your design, that conditioning hasn't affected you. Because I've talked to some people who this stuff doesn't resonate, but a lot of it is because they're being told, or they've allowed themselves to be told, that they're somebody totally different and they're trying to live somebody else's life, right? In many cases. So good for you that you're listening to your internal wisdom. That's amazing.
And the identity part
Um,
fits really well as well. Yeah, I've always
oh,
tried on
really?
different identities. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Good for you
I like
that you
doing
did
that
it.
actually. Yeah, that fits well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can keep doing it. So you got all the permission in the world now. It's all about your human design. And then the last few centers, this throat center, again, like I said, all of the energy is trying to be pressed and pushed up into our throat so we can express. And so you have this very strong channel between your sacral and your throat, which means that you have really good, you have consistent energy to speak from your gut, essentially, to speak from what you know to be true. Like this is a really significant energy to be able to express clearly to the world what it is you know to be true. And you're not connected, your throat isn't connected to your head or your ajna. This is the ajna, which is again a place where the head center the head chakra has been split into two. The head is this idea where our ideas and our logic and our like thinking brain is, and then the ajna is more of the processing part of this. It's like our mind. It's how we process the thoughts and ideas that come into our head from the outside world, and it's where we become certain or not. And so you, in this openness, you have literally an open mind, so it doesn't probably feel aligned for you to be super certain about anything. You may be kind of like me, of like, it could be true, I don't know, I'm good, I'm gonna go with that right now. I may find it's not so true down the line. Being dogmatic doesn't probably feel very aligned for you. But you also don't have a straightforward connection to speak your mind. So when you're speaking, you're really speaking much more from your internal wisdom than you are from your head. Um, which human design would say was great because you're supposed to be in your body anyway. But there may be moments where you're like, I'd really like to be able to express that thing that I know in my mind, but I just can't get it out. There may be some of that. Writing is a place that can really help people, that if you've got stuff in your head that you want to get out and you're struggling and it's not coming out verbally, writing is a really great way to be in your body, to get your body to express the things that are in your mind, to use the energy that way. And so those are your various centers. And then I'll just run over real quick because I know I don't want to go over time here. You have this 3-5 profile, which, as I said, is this you're an experiential learner and you're a heretic. The 3 is what we call your personality side. So it's the 3, this experiential learner part is probably the side that you yourself are pretty aware of, and the people in your life are fairly aware of as well. They would see you as a experiential learner. And the other thing 3s are really known for is this real deep need for freedom, to be able to do what it is that you want to do in the world without any hindrance. That is also a signature of a 3 line. And this 5, this heretic side of you is there, but it comes from your design side. It comes from your soul side. And so this natural leadership quality, this problem solver, this, person that people look to for, help and wisdom and knowledge, just exactly like the work you've been doing probably. And again, your tendency is going to be to solve those problems in unusual ways. And it won't feel weird to you to offer up weird solutions, where like a 4th line would be like, I'm not going to offer up that weird solution because that's weird. I'm not a heretic, right? But you're a heretic. You're like, nope, weird solutions are good. Any questions about any of that?
No, that fits really well,
Okay,
especially the
cool.
number through the 3.
Yeah. That's a really specific line. Melinda, should we open it up to other questions? I know I've raced through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I think this is just really giving listeners a great general overview understanding of it. And even a couple of the things that you brought out were so useful to me. This is the kind of thing that someone can listen to again and get a lot more out of as well, I think. So that's great. But yeah, why don't we see if there are some questions from anyone in the chat, or if anyone has a question and they'd like to come on and ask it. You're the host now, so
Oh,
let
I'm
me
the
just
host. Wait, should I stop sharing and then you can take host back?
why don't you pass the baton back to me? Okay, there we
Okay.
go.
Now I
All
gotta
right.
figure out how to do that. Make host. There you go.
Okay, cool. I'm the host now. Oh, that was so easy. Wonderful. Love it. I love it when technology works and when I can make it work properly. And I usually need
Exactly.
someone else to tell me what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, does anyone have a question about anything that you heard or anything that we covered that we can answer for you? I'm curious, with those of you who are listening, if you can, you may not be in a place where you can let us know, but have you been exposed to human design previously, or do you have your charts? Would be a question that I'd like to ask. And again, maybe that the others who are listening are just not able to respond via chat. Yeah. Okay. Well, I had, as you were talking, Christine, I had
Yeah.
just a couple of little questions.
Okay.
And I'm just going to share my thoughts about human design. I've known about human design for quite a long time. When I first saw it and saw my chart, I felt like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It seemed really complex and confusing, and I didn't quite understand it. And so, even though there were things about it that I resonated with, there were things that I sort of reacted to. Oh, I don't like that thing. I don't like that about me. No, that's not really true. So, I'm just saying is that that may be the case with a lot of people. But what I also have learned as I've sort of made my little foray into human design, which it isn't a very deep foray at this point, but I find it extremely fascinating and pretty accurate. One thing is that there's going to be something that you hear that is going to deeply resonate with you. And that's the signal to maybe explore this a little bit more. It certainly was for me. And for me, I'll just share this about myself. I am a projector. I'm, I think, less than 20% of the people on the planet are projectors. We're the ones who are kind of supposed to guide, but yet we also have to wait to be invited because our aura is sort of penetrating and a little more intense, and people don't quite know what to do with that sometimes. And I spent so much time trying to be a generator.
Yeah.
I spent most of my life trying to be a generator and manifest and, just like get on that hamster wheel. And once I learned that as a projector, I have a different path and that I don't have to be maniacal in my approach to life and being productive, it gave me so much solace and clarity about things. And everyone that I know who has kind of been intrigued and gotten involved in human design, as you begin to understand it more, it's really going to feel so supportive for you and give you some really, I think, loving directives about how you can continue on your path in life with more ease and joy and clarity. So that's my sales pitch.
I'm sold.
Yeah, so there is a lot to it. It is really interesting. It's also I totally love the way that you kind of shared the history of human design and what it's about and the kind of the purpose of human design to have come into to help humanity. I think that's we all know we are in the middle of a big change. I mean,
Yes.
there is no denying it. It is obvious, and so I think we all really understand that we do need some direction and some support and assistance. And this isn't the only one. There are others, but this is one that is very it's a very beautiful and supportive structure for self-learning and also for relationships and and kind of future focus, which I think is quite lovely. So
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
love that. And I didn't really talk about it much, but I do think I agree with everything you said. And I think for people that are listening, I think one of the things that is most profound about it for me is this ability to see other people's designs.
Mhm.
And even just knowing the high level stuff that I've just talked to you about, like seeing that in other people is
Yeah.
really clarifying in your relationships. I think it's really helpful to be like, oh, they have an emotionally defined center. That wave that they're going through that I'm feeling is not about me, right?
Mhm.
That's just their process, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't have to take it on. It's not my stuff. I'm amplifying it, right? Like that was really
Mhm.
helpful for me. Those
Yes.
kinds of things I think are really
Yes. Yeah, it is really helpful. And I mean, we are right now really trying to figure out this relationship communication thing. I mean, it's been very bumpy. And
Mhm.
so the more that we can kind of understand our design and have have an awareness of others, I just think that that's going to create opening and a pathway for a lot more acceptance of people in their own uniqueness and their, in who they are. So I find it really, I think it's exciting, and it's a gift. This human design is a gift to humanity, and I'm just delighted to have the opportunity to share this information and to have Christine come in and to kind of give you her approach on it, because I'm just going to say this, Christine. I've listened to a lot of people talk about human design, and I mean, at this point, you have actually been able to nail it and to make it really interesting, but yet very understandable. So kudos to you for that one.
Yay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what I'd like to do, there are a couple of comments that have come in from other listeners. Andrea is saying that this is just all new to her and that the flow of information is great. So yay, glad to
Yay.
hear that. Yeah, and Jennifer is having some trouble with her audio, but she's finding it really interesting and she's done her chart. What I would like for all of you to know is how to learn more from Christine. And so Christine, what would you share and say to those listeners who want to learn more?
Yeah. Oh, my Instagram. That's probably the most straightforward way. It's Christine Terrell. This is my name, is my Instagram if you're on Instagram. And I have a link there in my bio that links to my little human design thing. Because I'm only a part-time human designer. I'm mostly a jewelry designer. So
That's lovely.
yeah.
Well, you actually you've you've been able to bring human design into um, I think an area that is going to make it very comfortable for people to sort of reach out and connect with you and learn more from you.
Well,
And
that's sweet. I really appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. So, Marianne, I would like to ask your permission to share this with our communities, if you're okay with that. And if you're comfortable with it, and I would like to post the recording on social media as well. If you're not comfortable with that, please say so, and I will respect that. It's totally, it's totally up to you.
You can share it. That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
my only question is the results that I got didn't
Mhm.
look quite the same. It didn't have as much information on it. Where was that? That's
Um,
Yeah,
Christine,
so
could she be in touch with you to have you walk her through that a little more?
absolutely.
Okay.
So just
it had the main the picture, but it didn't have all that list on the left
that's
side.
right. Yeah, that my body graph software I recommend to people because it's free and you can actually keep the body graphs of people in your life in there, but it doesn't necessarily have everything laid out quite the same way as this software. So it's just a different
Oh,
software
okay.
essentially.
All right. That's fine. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, as this recorded event audio goes out, I will include the information on how you can reach Christine so that you can be in touch with her and learn more and schedule with her if you are inclined to do that. And I highly recommend it. I promise you that an individual reading is very, very supportive and beneficial. I was really surprised when she did mine, because I mean, I've kind of been around human design peripherally for many years, and it just was a very different experience to have to have a session with Christine and have her read my chart and share her interpretation. So highly encourage you to do that. So any,
I was quite impressed, yeah, by how much it found about me. Yeah, it was really interesting.
Good.
awesome.
That's so
I
good
would
to
agree.
know. Thank you.
Yay, fantastic. Well, I just want to thank all of you for taking your time to be with us today. It's a real pleasure and it's an honor to be able to share this information with you all. And Christine, thank you so much. You are a gem.
Thanks.
I love it. I like to use those kinds of things since you're in the jewelry business.
Yes, there you go. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I love that.
thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and your time today.
Absolutely. I really want to thank all of you. I very much appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Yes, it's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Everyone have a great evening, and the recording will go out. Just look for it within the next 24 hours. Listen again because she did cover a lot. So,
A lot.
all right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye for now.